Hi friends, welcome back for another video, and if you're new here then welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going through my June reading wrapped and discussing all the books I read in June, what I rated them and if I would recommend them to you guys. Let's get straight into it. Before we go into my thoughts and feelings on these books, I usually just do a quick little wrap up of the month in terms of how I did on my June TBR and also how many books I read in total. So for the month of June, I read a total of 7 books and I picked out 6 prompts in my June TBR video. Of those 6 books, I read 4. So I didn't complete the TBR, but there is reason. 50/50 by Steve Kavanagh, I actually started at the end of June. So I'm currently reading that going into July. And The Lamb by Lucy Rose, I started to see some reviews that said it was almost a bit like a horror book, and it wasn't giving me the summer vibes that I was feeling for June. So I've put that one on pause. I reckon I'm going to read that closer to sort of September, October time, just because that feels more like that kind of vibe. That is a bit of an overview of June. Let's start going into detail of what I read. So I actually started June off with a thriller book, and I read the final book in the Housemaid series, The Housemaid is Watching. Now, I actually read this on holiday and I really liked it. I saw quite a few reviews that people were saying they were struggling to get through it. A few people DNF'd it, a few people sort of read it, didn't love it. And then I saw some reviews of people really enjoying it. I loved it and it felt like a really good summer beach read, and I can't explain it because it's a thriller book, but if you've read it before you might feel the same. But there are a few days in the book that are set on the beach and I was like, ooh, this feels very summery for a thriller book. And I actually really enjoyed it. In terms of the series itself, I think the second and third book I actually preferred to the first. Like, I guessed the twist in the first Housemaid book, but in the second and third, did not guess any of the twists, didn't see where it was going, really enjoyed them, felt quite connected to the characters. Don't get me wrong, there were some things that were happening in the third book that felt quite out of character for some of the characters in the book, but nothing like that ruined it for me or made it less enjoyable. And I really sped through it, I really enjoyed it in all honesty. I ended up rating it 4 stars, and on reflection, I think I rated the first Housemaid book 4 stars also, but I think I would rate the first book 3.5 on reflection, and then the second and third book I would rate 4 stars. Very enjoyable, would definitely recommend. If you read the first and second and are umming and ahhing about whether to read the final one, I would definitely recommend it. And yeah, if you have read it, let me know what you think down below in the comments, because it definitely seems to be a bit of a Marmite book in the thriller community. We are then moving on to another book that I read on holiday. In fact, a lot of these books I read on holiday, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I loved this. So I wasn't really sure going into it what it was going to be like, and I saw that part of the genre was magical realism, which I don't think I've read too much of, but every time I have read something with that kind of theme to it, I really enjoyed it. And this was just a really fun, lovely romance rom-com book, and it actually had a chapter title that is one of my favourite chapter titles I've ever seen, which was, I'll insert a picture, but it was Yo Mama's Fajitas, and I thought, what a great chapter name. I'm excited to read that chapter. This was a book that my friend Freya lent me, and she said this is a really good poolside read, and she did not lie. I read it by the pool, I read it on the beach. I loved it. And if you're looking for a book to take on holiday this year, a book to read by the beach, just something to make you feel kind of wholesome and summery, then I would definitely recommend this one. It was a really nice, light, easy read, and I just really enjoyed the kind of magical realism element to the book. It's something that I'm starting to realise I really enjoy. It makes a book quite fun. I ended up rating this one 5 stars. I couldn't fault it. I really enjoyed it and would recommend it to everyone around me. The next book in June has been spoken about a lot in June because of a TV show has come out an adaptation of it, and that is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Now, this is the first Carly Fortune book I have ever read, and I absolutely loved it. The only way I can think to describe it is nostalgia in a book. It made me feel cozy, it made me feel nostalgic, it made me feel warm and fuzzy and summery. I loved the characters, I loved the setting and the scenery, and how the book was actually written was really just lovely and enjoyable. I loved this book, I loved the characters, and I was getting through the book and I was thinking, this is a 5-star read, this is 5 stars, I just know it, I love it. And then something happened towards the end and it docked it a star. It docked it a star. It would have been a 5-star read. However, I want to say this without giving any spoilers because this is a spoiler-free review, but there was something that happened in the last sort of quarter maybe of the book that is a trope that I don't like, I don't enjoy, and it had something else to it that also I was just like, it made me feel icky, and I was reading it and I was loving it, and then it got to that bit and I was like, no, why did that have to be involved? I just, yeah, did not enjoy. If anyone has read it, I'm hoping that you understand the part I'm talking about and what part of the book I mean. But yeah, it kind of, it lost its 5-star feeling from that moment for me, but I still really loved it. I've recommended it to my friends to read since, because I really loved the book, and I'm really excited to read One Golden Summer, which is following one of the characters from this Every Summer After book. I've yet to watch the TV show. I'm very excited to watch the TV show. I just need to work out if I need to watch and read One Golden Summer before I watch the TV show on Amazon Prime. But either way, still really enjoyed the book. It's just a shame that that one thing happened that kind of ruined it a little bit for me. Like, it didn't destroy the book, it didn't make me think, oh god, well, it's a 1-star. Like, I still loved it and I've still recommended it to friends, but it did kind of ruin the feel of the book for me personally. I know it wouldn't bother everyone, but for me, that was just a no. Fourth book that I read in June was a thriller book, and I started this on holiday, and it was What Lies Between Us by John Mars. I started this on holiday and I got about halfway through and I just looked at Matt and I was like, do you know what, this is actually so dark and heavy. This isn't making me feeling the holiday vibes. So I paused it, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but it just wasn't the vibe of a holiday. And then I finished it when I got home from holiday. It was ruining the vibes. It was a really good book, but it was dark. The themes were dark. I would check the trigger warnings of this book if you're going to read it. There was just a lot going on. A lot. That being said, I did really enjoy it. It was really twisty and I didn't see anything sort of coming, and there were multiple times, even early on in the book, where I was like, what the hell is happening? What the hell? There were moments where I literally like stopped reading it and was like, Matt, I can't believe what I've just read. Whoa. And then when I explained some of the things that were happening, he was like, yeah, that's not really a holiday read. In summary, I would recommend the book. I wouldn't recommend reading it on holiday. I actually think this is more of an autumn-winter read, not a summer read. If you're a seasonal reading person, I would wait until the autumn-winter time. If you love thriller books and you love a twist and you like some dark themes to the books that you're reading, this is a great book and I would recommend reading it whenever. It's basically following a mother and daughter relationship, and it's kind of told in dual timelines and from dual point of views. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot to follow, but it is really gripping and it really like hooks you. Hopefully that kind of summarizes that and gives you an idea of whether it's a book for you or not. I ended up rating it 4 stars because it was a really good thriller, it was really twisty, and something that I found in quite a few thrillers that I've read recently is around the kind of unreliable narrator. I don't enjoy that. This didn't have that, so it made it quite enjoyable. The next book, I actually read most of it in May, but I was reading the physical book and a hardback copy, and I didn't want to take that on holiday because I literally had like 30 pages left before I left for holidays. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna have to finish it when I get home. And that was Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. I was loving this book for the first 50% of it, and then it just got very repetitive and I did struggle. It sort of was like gripping, and then my engagement with it kind of went down, and then towards the end it picked up a bit. Like, the ending was sweet, I liked the ending, etc. It just felt like it could have been sort of 50 pages shorter, and it did feel repetitive, and I liked all the characters, but because it was dragging, I was starting to find them a little bit annoying. I don't know if you've ever had that with a book, but just because nothing was really happening, that was gripping, in all honesty. But I really liked the concept. It's basically two people meet, and one of them owns or has recently bought a houseboat that she used to live on, and they hook up one evening and they don't tie the boat to the thing properly, and they wake up and they've been swept away at sea, and it's following that journey. So don't get me wrong, it would be repetitive if you were stranded at sea on a little houseboat. I get it, but it just wasn't very engaging for me. And as much as I liked the characters, obviously there's only two of them mainly through the book, and I didn't feel like I was learning much more about them in those bits that were dragging. I don't know if I would recommend this one, because the concept is cool and it's fun, but there was probably a point from the 50% to maybe the 85% mark where I was just kind of like struggling to pick the book up, and I think that's quite a vital part of a book, you know? So I probably wouldn't recommend it unless it sounds like, I think if you want something really slow and easy and just like a little palate cleanser, if you've read a lot of one genre and you want something different, maybe that would be a good time to read it. But for me, it just wasn't my favourite. I ended up actually rating this a 2.5 star, so not the highest rating, and probably wouldn't be high up on my recommendations list either. For the sixth book, I read my first ever Emily Henry book, which was really exciting. I haven't read an Emily Henry book before, and I have seen so many amazing things about her books online, so I was really excited to finally give one a go. And the one I started with was Book Lovers. So this is the first time that I've read a book both physically and audiobook. So parts of the book I read physically, and then when I was like pottering about, I listened to it on the audiobook and then just kind of picked up where that had finished with my physical book. So I did a bit of half and half with it, which I've never done before. And I actually really enjoyed doing it that way. It was quite interesting to kind of give the characters a bit more personality through the audiobook. And it was nice to be able to carry on a book I was reading whilst pottering about and, you know, listening to it whilst on a walk and stuff. So this book is very wholesome and very cute. And it's kind of like rivalry trope, I guess. But I just found the male main character not very like interesting or engaging. Like, he was a little bit bleh, which is fine. Not really what I look for in that kind of book. However, I did really enjoy the book. I really enjoyed the characters. He was just not a standout and he was a bit dull. And like, don't get me wrong, they had good banter and stuff, but I didn't love it, you know? I ended up giving it 3.5 stars because I've read quite a few summery romance books recently that I really loved. This just didn't hit the mark for me in comparison. Like, when I think of Picking Daisies on Sundays, Every Summer After, 7 Year Slip, all of those I've read and I've finished, and I'm thinking about them and I'm like, oh, this is how I would explain them, and I can explain them quite clearly, like, and review them. This one I only read a couple of weeks ago and I'm already a bit like, well, I remember he was a bit dull and I remember some parts, but it didn't have me hooked, is the best way to describe it. But that isn't to say that I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely would, because it is really fun, it is really light-hearted. It kind of breaks the fourth wall in a way because of its to people that work in the book industry. So it's quite funny, some of the things they say. It's like, oh, breaking the fourth wall. So that's really enjoyable to read as a reader who reads lots of books. And I think if you are someone that loves to read, you will quite enjoy those parts of the book. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5 stars. I would recommend it for the summer. I definitely did enjoy Emily Henry's writing style, like how she writes and how she tells stories. I did enjoy that, so I'm definitely excited to read more from her. And I actually spoke to my friend Ariane about what I thought of this book, and she said she felt the same, and there's a couple of her other books that she has enjoyed more than Book Lovers. So intrigued to try those and see if I get on a little bit better with them in the future. Moving on to the final book of June, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And when I tell you we are ending June on a high, oh my goodness, I loved this book so much. Second Taylor Jenkins Reid book I've read, and the second Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've rated 5 stars. I just love her writing. I love her stories. This is the first book that I have read that has actually made me sob and cry. I was about 40% of the way through the book, and Matt was like, maybe read something different because you are like, you're sobbing, you're crying. This is following a family in Malibu, and I think something that the reason it made me cry, I am from a family of my mum, my dad, and then myself and my 3 siblings. So there's 4 of us, and then my parents. And the family setup of this is a mum, a dad, and 4 children. So I instantly, like, things were happening and it was just making me cry. There were other things that were happening in the book that didn't relate. Like, there's themes of things that don't relate to my family, but in terms of just the setup of 4 children and parents, I was like, same. But there was a quote in the book that I just loved and I wanted to read out because I just thought it was a really nice line. Alcoholism is a disease with many faces and some of them look beautiful. That made me emotional. I just thought, oh my God. The way Taylor Jenkins Reid writes about some really sensitive subjects, such as alcoholism, is so comforting and reassuring, and she just does it so well. It's obviously a very sensitive subject to write about and talk about, and it can be done badly, but she does it beautifully, and it's so impressive. It felt heartwarming, it was sad, but it was joyous. There were moments where people did things and you think, yeah, stand up for yourself. There were moments where people did that and you think, why would you do that? It just made me feel so excited to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I'm really excited to read 7 Husbands. I'm really excited to read Carrie Soto's back. Just, you know, this has made me feel like she is an instant buy author for me. And I actually saw that apparently Atmosphere is going to be made into a film adaptation as well, which is so exciting. But if you haven't read any of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, I would definitely recommend reading Atmosphere or Malibu Rising. I've loved both. Both are 5 stars for me. If you've read them, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear what you thought as well. That is everything that I read in June, all of my reviews. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a lot of me just rambling, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of whether you want to read any of these books. And if you're adding any of them to your TBR, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to know if this has inspired you to pick up a book to read in the next couple of months over the summer. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below what you're currently reading. I hope it's a really good book. And subscribe if you haven't already. We would love to have you here. I upload every Wednesday and Sunday, and I share all things life and book content, so we would love to have you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for another video. Bye guys.